Deer, deer. Buck. A little buck coming in right there. There's another one behind it, another deer behind it. Boy, if that old big buck would do the same thing them little bucks did, we'd be in business. That full moon is just absolutely killing us. We've got to catch a break.
A bad moon's rising, and it's past the rut, meaning Alan Treadwell's work's cut out for him on this Northwest Kansas edition of Winchester Rackmasters.
It's getting late. I got about 15 more minutes of daylight. I'm thinking that our hunt's just about over with and thinking about packing up. We have about 10 or 15 minutes of daylight left. Deer, buck, buck, big buck, big buck. That's him. There's a deer right down there. Little buck out in the milo, kind of cruising around. A couple of does he's bumping around. I guess somebody forgot to tell him the rut's over. Little year and a half old buck. Boy, he's pretty out there in that milo.
It's never easy under a full moon, or after the rut, and Rackmasters host Alan Treadwell has to contend with both here in northwestern Kansas. His hopes are still high, though, on his third trip to the state, especially when hunting with good friend Jeff Woodworth of Jeff's Guide Service.
We're out here in northwest Kansas with Jeff Woodworth of Jeff's Guide Service. And I've hunted with Jeff before, and he has some giant deer in the area, but it's been a couple of years since I've been out here, and I was so excited to draw the tag and to be able to come back out here to western Kansas and chase those giant whitetail. Made it, buddy.
How you doing?
Sitting out there rocking, huh?
Yeah.
You're getting old on me, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Turning white.
I like that beard, looks good.
You have a good trip?
Had a real good trip.
I'm Jeff Woodworth with Jeff's Guide Service. Me and Alan been hunting together for this our third year now, and he's one of the best hunters that I've had out here, Alan is, and it's just a joy to hunt with him.
That's some big horns right there. That's a definite shooter. Good gracious, look at that thing. Good Lord, I hope he comes over here. He jumped the fence, here he comes. He's coming this time. All right, as soon as that last deer gets out from behind him, I'm gonna take him. Here we go. He's down. Holy smokes. What a Kansas whitetail. Jeff Woodworth.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it, man. What a deal. These deer in Kansas have the genetics that it takes to reach really big racks, and with the game laws that they have, where resident or non-resident, either one can only kill one buck, it allows fewer bucks to be harvested and those bucks that do exist to reach that full potential.
There's some big deer in Kansas, and that's why you go there. They want these deer to grow up, so they want you to shoot a 4, 5, 6-year-old type of deer. And that's what it takes to get a big deer. So Kansas, they've got everything going for them.
You get two things in Kansas. You get a lot of deer, you get a lot of old deer, you get big body deer. So that's 3 things. Make it 4 things. You get big antlers.
See if we got any pictures on this dude. Had it out all night. Oh yeah, about 1,000. Yeah, we'll go back and look at these. You need every tool that you can have to help you in your scouting process. And we use trail cameras on this hunt. And we were getting pictures of great deer. Bunch of does in there right now. Little small buck. Ooh, whoa, 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 what do we have over here? There he is, there's that big 8. Oh gosh, he's beautiful. There was one buck in particular that Jeff had sent me photos of, this big, mature, massive 8-point. He kept telling me, he said he's got long brows. He said he's got 12-inch G2s, 11-inch G3s, and he's telling me all about it and sending pictures, and I'm looking at it, and this is one of the biggest 8-pointers I've ever seen. Let's see what time that is. 7:20. He showed up about an hour and a half after dark. And it was just like Jeff had feared, just like I had feared. The rut was over, the moon was full. The big bucks were moving, and the big bucks were coming in front of the camera, but it was late. Hopefully, it's just a matter of time. The longer we hunt, the smaller that moon's gonna get. So once that moon keeps getting smaller, hopefully that big buck will get on his feet and we'll see him in daylight hours. It's gonna be tough, but We're in a heck of a spot out here at Jeff's Guide Service in this wide open country. If he's standing up, we'll find him.
Treadwell's done his photo survey. Now there's time for an afternoon hunt. With the deer moving late, Alan knows he has to stretch the hunting day to the last minute.
This is an old farmyard, so they're used to a lot of traffic. Got some hay bales to slip in. And there's a big cut milo field. And these deer have just been pounding in on it. We'll go down there and see what we can see. Hunting deer after the rut, you really want to concentrate on food sources, because those deer are coming back to those food sources, trying to put on weight to get that calorie intake that they lost during the rut chasing does so far around this wide open country. Several does. This would be a great place to camp out. We got a big cut milo field here, and Jeff said they've been using this thing like crazy. This cedar row is real dark. It's already in the shade. These deer are gonna come out in this field and they'll never know we're here. When you're hunting one buck, when you have one buck in mind that you would like to kill, you gotta be disciplined, because these bucks are old, they're smart, they got big for a reason. And if you go in there and bump that deer out and he's already nocturnal, that's either gonna move him areas or you're not gonna see him again. There's some deer coming out down there right now. It's a little buck. All right, he's definitely not what I'm looking for. First deer in the field is a 1.5 year old buck and a couple of does. 4:30, basically an hour before dark. That's what that full moon does for you right there. We were seeing small bucks. We were seeing small bucks that were broke up, does, little bucks that still thought the rut might be on, bumping does around, but the rut was obviously over with. Comes another deer right there. Boy, them deer are just absolutely piling in this field. But that's pretty good 8-point, maybe 135. We got into an area where I knew was a bedding area. Here comes another buck in, another 8-point.
Winchester Whitetail Revolution is brought to you by Winchester Ammunition, the American legend, and by Redfield, the soul of the American hunter.
Comes another deer right there. Boy, them deer are just absolutely piling in this field. Bunch of does and little bucks so far. They're just coming in everywhere. You can tell that the rut is over and these things are coming back in here to get fattened back up. A couple of little bucks. Real young, 2.5, 3.5 year old stuff. One of the most important things you can do as a trophy managing hunter, a hunter that wants to grow as big a whitetail as he possibly can, is to let those young deer grow, you know, and shoot your older age class and let those antlers get as big as they're going to get. This field, there comes another little buck coming in right up there. He's 5 1.5 year old buck. So everywhere you look right now, they're piling in from a different direction. This field is just going to fill up. You really have to be able to judge the age of a whitetail, and a lot of times you have to do that in an instant. There's a few things you should look for in an animal when you're trying to age him quick, because let's face it, a lot of times in a hunting situation, aging those deer comes pretty quick. You know, on a 1.5 year old buck, he's going to have a real small neck. He's basically going to look like a doe with antlers. He's going to have a real thin hindquarters, real long legs. Think of a teenager, he's all there, but he just hadn't filled out yet. And a 5.5 and 6.5 year old age group, and this is the age group that you really want to try to take if at all possible. Sway back, pot belly, big blocky looking, big chest, big hindquarters, and that neck comes right into the chest. A couple more deer, little doe in there with him. I just don't know if we're going to get any mature bucks in here before dark with that full moon.
Unless you have a secondary rut kicking in or something to get them on their feet a little earlier, you're just going to deal with that late evening stuff, especially with a full moon and post rut and 65-degree temperatures. So we had everything against us.
Why are you booking this hunt in the full moon, Alan? That's why you better enjoy Mother Nature, because you're going to see a lot more Mother Nature than you're going to see white-tailed deer.
That full moon is hurting us more than anything right now. Those mature deer just aren't moving till after dark. I mean, we got some cameras set out. Every mature buck we're getting is 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, hour and a half, 2 hours after dark. A big buck moves a lot at night, even without a full moon. A big buck moves a lot at night, even without the rut being over with. A big buck moves at night when the temperatures are warm, and you throw all those things into the mix, and these bucks were just strictly nocturnal.
Unfortunately for Treadwell, he doesn't have a cat's eyes to spot the big bucks in the dark. So the best thing is to be out early the next day to catch the deer before they go to their beds.
Little buck out there feeding in that cut cornfield. Boy, these cool mornings in Kansas are perfect for stalking. I got a perfect setup right here with this ditch. I got a cottonwood flat and some grain fields on the other side. Ease up and sit down.
I lease a little over 20,000 acres, and I try real hard to have some areas in there that I don't even go into. I call them my refuge area. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll just get back and watch those deer go to bed, and if they bed in a place where we can approach them on a spot and stock situation without blowing the whole herd out, we'll do that.
There's deer up there right now. Buck. Well, that's a pretty good 8-pointer, maybe 135. 3.5-year-old. Really pretty deer, just not what you want in Kansas. That dude could be a giant in a couple of years. We got into an area where I knew it was a bedding area, and these big bucks were getting off the fields early and coming down to this bedding area, and they were the first ones back to the bedding area. And I thought, hey, if we get back to that bedding area, we might just catch them before they get bedded down. Here comes another buck in, another 8-point. Another 3.5-year-old. That deer's a little smaller, maybe 125. Real nice deer, just young.
Once the rut is over, some people think hunting is over, and that is so untrue. Because once the post-rut hits, the hunting can really ramp up. And the reason why, you can start patterning these bucks from their travel corridors, going from food to bed and bed to food.
Every deer that we see is on the move. It's headed to bed, headed somewhere. I'll tell you, right there's our main problem right now. Every day we hunt, that moon will just get a little less and less and less full, and those deer will start moving a little early, a little earlier of the evening, a little later of the morning. Deer. Buck. A little buck coming in right there. There's another one behind it, another deer behind it. Well, if that old big buck would do the same thing them little bucks did, we'd be in business. Couple of neat deer out there. A little 2.5-year-old deer.
As the day ends, Winchester Rackmasters host Alan Treadwell's Chasing the Setting Sun. So he's working the area where he knows the big buck lives.
Well, it's afternoon here in Kansas, and we've been getting pictures every night of that big 8-pointer in this area right here. I'm gonna slip up there, get in the area where we've been getting pictures of him, and just kind of get hid and wait and hope like heck that the sucker shows before dark. Every picture we have of him is nighttime. That moon is killing us, but we're gonna slip up here, get in there, get tucked in, and just wait on him. And if we can see him in this wide open country, if we can see him, we can make a stalk to him. These deer in Kansas, they have a wider home range than a lot of deer that you're used to dealing with. They'll bed down 2 miles from where they feed, and they work back and forth. But I was hoping that as far as I can see and as far as these deer travel, I was hoping that maybe he was on his feet somewhere, headed that direction, and I could see him and I could make a move on him. Get up here by this yucca and sit down for a little while. I like this right here. I got a good vantage point. I can see all off in that bottom. Should be bedding area just over that hill. And that's got to be where he's bedded. Just got to get him to come up and come out of there. And if he comes out and goes west, we'll see him. This is the area we've been getting his picture in every night. We'll just camp out right here and see if we can lay eyes on that sucker. The area that we were hunting in, we had gotten pictures of this deer. We'd gotten literally hundreds of pictures of this big 8, plus there was a couple of big 10s in the area that we had pictures of right there. And I knew if we concentrated in that area and stayed in that area where all those big deer were living, that hopefully if we paid our dues and put in our time and played the wind and didn't go in there if the wind was wrong, that eventually one of these big suckers would make a mistake. Deer, deer. Buck, a little buck coming in right there. Coming from the south. I had no idea they'd come from the south. There's another one behind it, another deer behind it. Looks like it's just those two. Two little 2.5-year-old bucks. I could tell there's a little bedding area over there, but I never thought they were bedded over that direction. Well, if that old big buck would do the same thing them little bucks did, we'd be in business. Instantly, when I seen those small bucks coming from that direction, I just had a gut feeling that that big buck was living in that area. Does right there, coming from the south, same way those little bucks came from. 2 does right there at the fence. More deer behind them. I see horns. Oh, there's that horned doe. I got pictures of her. Holy cow, look at her, she is cool. The way that I could tell that this was a doe with horns was her body, number 1, she was standing next to other does and they looked exactly the same. And number 2, she was still in velvet. Most does that get antlers never shed their velvet.
You know, it's huge if you do more than just hunt to shoot your animal. Learn to experience the whole thing and appreciate it, because you can constantly learn new things, see new things. You can't lose when you're deer hunting if you've got that attitude.
How cool is that horn doe? Boy, looking back into that west setting sun, we're losing light quick. 2 small bucks is all we've seen moving. They should have been out an hour and a half ago. That full moon is just absolutely killing us. We've got to catch a break. It's getting late. I got about 15 more minutes of daylight. I'm thinking that our hunt's just about over with and thinking about packing up. We have about 10 or 15 minutes of daylight left. Deer, buck, big buck. That's him.
Winchester Whitetail Revolution is brought to you by Winchester Ammunition, the American legend, and by Redfield, the soul of the American hunter.
Alan Treadwell's had a full moon, no rut, and warm temperatures in Kansas. Now, will he pull the trigger before he has to pull the plug?
It's getting late. I got about 15 more minutes of daylight. We're sitting there looking west into that setting sun, and the only problem with looking west is it seems to lose light a little quicker to the west than it does to the east. And I'm thinking that our hunt's just about over with and thinking about packing up. We have about 10 or 15 minutes of daylight left. Deer, buck, big buck coming from the same place. That's him. That's our big 8. There he comes. He's coming to the fence. That's our deer right there. I have 100 trail camera photos of him. Jeff's been sending me pictures of this deer for 2 months. When I see this deer, when I lay eyes on him, I know it's the big 8. And he's on his feet and it's still shooting light, and I start to get nervous. Watch him, here he comes. No doubt about it, that's him. Look at that rack. That is a giant 8-pointer. Here he comes. He's standing at the fence. He's wagging that tail, he's gonna jump. All right, he jumped the fence. It was getting so late that I needed to stop that deer. I didn't want him to be able to get away from me. I didn't want him to keep walking. I'm gonna dump him. I'm gonna dump him right there. When I whistled, he turned towards that north and kind of faced me, and I put that crosshairs right there where his neck meets his chest. Here we go. Down he went. Holy smokes, what a hunt. You talk about down to the wire. So much hard work, so much preparation, all rolled into one, and I knew I just had to squeeze that trigger on that Winchester Model 70 You know, I control my heartbeat and control my nerves and just squeeze that trigger when that gun went off and he dumped. That's the biggest 8-pointer I've ever killed. Holy cow, what a buck. What a deer, what a deer. He is down, he did not go anywhere.
What can I say about Alan? Good marksman, makes a shot when the shot needs to count, and I think he's just a little bit on the lucky side. No matter where he goes, the big whitetails show up.
You know you have killed something special when the horns are sticking up that high. Are you kidding me? Look at this buck right here. How often does it come about that you go to an area with a deer in mind and you hunt through tough conditions and you hunt hard and you do everything right and it comes together for you? Unbelievable. That's a 160-inch 8-point, ladies and gentlemen. That is a stud. Very possibly the biggest deer that I've ever harvested. Jeff's Guide Service, Northwest Kansas. Thank you, Lord. What a deer. What a deer.
Hi, I'm Bob Folkrod, asking you to join the Legions of Deer Hunters taking the QDMA Real Hunting Pledge. Hunt wild deer that aren't the production of artificial breeding or human habituation, and they aren't subject to unfair canned hunting conditions. Real hunters pursue real deer.